you telling me that you have a way to defer the tax situation there? Is that what you're telling me?
Yes, absolutely. Yes. And so the first one I was referring to is a 1031 exchange, which only applies to investment real estate. The second one I'm referring to is called a deferred sales trust.
A real eye-opener to see that there are ways that people can use the regulatory framework, if properly structured, to invest 1031 exchange dollars in things that you would not think were like kind to what they exited from. So it was very impressive. I got to say, you are the first one I've seen pull this off, and I'm pretty hesitant to believe in a lot of these kinds of things. So it's a major feat for me to say, wow, this actually really worked, and it was really cool.
1031 is a way to shelter your income when you sell the thing. The DST is a way to avoid the 1031 and not have to suffer the time penalty.
Our career and during different tax periods, we've seen, these tax avoidance, tax minimization, offshore, all these different strategies undertaken to minimize or avoid taxes. And then I can tell you that, some of them are just not worth the trouble. And so I was skeptical. Admittedly, I was skeptical. I thought, oh yeah, here we go, another one of these, right? And then they say, no, it really is different, right? So look more closely. We looked more closely. We had, honestly, 2 years of conversations. 2 years. Now we were being due diligence at the same time that we were doing due diligence, but 2 years is a long time to be, sort of flirting with the idea of and getting to know the people and getting to really understand the transaction. Yeah, long story short, we got comfortable, although we are not tax attorneys, lawyers, or estate planning attorneys, that at least, from an investment perspective, that, it made sense to sell a highly appreciated asset, get liquid, hold that in this type of a deferred or installment sale type of instrument, and then just be in a position then to do the most important thing. I'm probably stealing your next question, which is time. They say, well, you can't make more time. You can. The deferred sales trust, in a way, allows you to lengthen the investment time horizon for those assets after getting liquid, but before having to feel the tax impact. And from an investment manager's perspective, time horizon is the most important element in investing.
Hello, everybody. Welcome. Happy Friday to you. I hope you're doing fantastic today and had an amazing week. I want to welcome you to another Capital Gains Tax Solutions Masterclass Mastermind on the Deferred Sales Trust, where we believe most high net worth individuals and those who help them, they struggle with clarifying their capital gains tax deferral options, and not having a clear plan is the enemy. Using a proven tax deferral strategy, such as the Deferred Sales Trust, sometimes a 1031 exchange, sometimes a Delaware statutory trust, sometimes donor advised fund. Sometimes it could be cost segregation when you're buying assets, all in the name of tax flow, not just cash flow, being able to defer tax, grow your wealth beyond just paying 25 to 50% in capital gains tax, depreciation, recapture, and getting hammered and wiped out. We don't want that for you. We want to help you to create freedom for yourself or for your clients. And we're very passionate about it. Growing up in Taxifornia, we face taxes at every single level. I feel like increasingly over the years in business and challenge. And it's a battle when you go to exit what you've built, whether it be your business, whether it be the blood, sweat, and tears to build your real estate assets, whether it be you invested into a tech startup and you have stock, or you invested in cryptocurrency at a low price and now it's up and you're facing huge tax. Well, guess what? We don't want you to feel trapped by that capital gains tax. We want to help you only defer that capital gains tax, but then go on and be able to build wealth with it. So you can transform your life and maybe the community that you're serving, or go into things that can provide housing for people if you're looking to invest into multifamily investments. All of these really cool things. I am joined by some of my business partners / strategic alliances, as well as sometimes clients are on here. We're going to be sharing just what's going on with live deals. We're also going to be sharing with some, frequently asked questions. We're also going to be talking about deals that didn't work out or that are crashing and burning for different reasons. And so also that you can hopefully get your mind and get a grasp around what the deferred sales trust is and if it could be a perfect fit for you or not. And that's what we're here for. So that being said, I do have D. Pierce York. He's on the team. He's also a luxury and commercial broker agent down in the Newport Beach area. Still in Taxifornia. Pierce, how are you doing, brother? He's on mute. That's okay. He's driving. We'll let him just stay there for a little bit until he comes off of mute.
There, yeah. Sorry about that.
No problem, sir. Nice to see you this
good.
week. How are you?
Things are good, man. We're just excited for what's going on, and we think there's going to be a lot of good deals coming down the pipeline here soon. So we're ready to go, man. We're just positioning ourselves and just ready to strike.
Excellent. Cool. We also have Jake Carpenter, one of our Strategic Alliance financial advisors extraordinaire out of the state of Washington. Jake, how you doing, sir?
Doing well. Glad to be here. Good to see you all.
And I'm liking the gig today. You got the hat, a little more casual with the necklace there. You're just looking good. For those who know who Jake Carpenter, man, first time I met him, I went to shake his hand, and his arm was like twice the size of my arm. I was like, whoa, this guy is strong. And you're looking good, Jake. You're looking tan. You're always looking tan too. You're just always tan growing up, or is that just because you're just out there fishing in the Washington sun?
I don't know about that. I just own a lot of, I guess we just have a lot of convertibles. So I've been out in the sun lately. We've had some sun.
You're looking good, brother. Well, good. So let's dive right into today's topic, which is the diversification with the deferred sales trust. Diversification with the deferred sales trust, or using the deferred sales trust. Or another way to think about it is, in times like this, how important is diversification, and how does the deferred sales trust give that to you? And what's really interesting is we're seeing in the marketplace with the collapse of SVB Bank and other banks that are struggling and are going under, that diversification is at the heart of building wealth, and it really aims to provide you as an investor with a sustainable investment portfolio, right? Especially in times of market uncertainty, right? During times of economic instability or market volatility, it can be beneficial to have a diversified portfolio to help mitigate risk. The whole saying of don't have all your eggs in one basket comes true here. And not only that, but now it's like even in banks, right? Banks, now, of course, this is a unique bank situation, of course, that at least they're saying right now from what we can glean. And perhaps it's not widespread or more failures. We'll see how as it plays out here. But with diversification into real estate, into different asset classes such as stocks, bonds, commodities, as well as different industries and sectors within those asset classes and different geographical locations, the deferred sales trust can provide this diversification from an investment standpoint, because it allows you not only to sell, defer the tax, but then methodically, thoughtfully, dollar cost averaging, you can put it into different investments at different times. This can include treasury bills, which a lot of our clients flooded to this last week, just to be extra cautious, to be out of maybe banks that aren't as large, or even perhaps could be, none of our clients were connected to the SVB. We didn't have anything to do with those banks, but it was just an upwards just of caution, right? And this helps to reduce the risk of any exposure or overexposure to any one particular company or industry, as well as provide exposure to potentially more growth opportunities in different sectors. And that's so important in today's marketplace. And into times like this, you want to be diversified. You don't want to be tied to just one asset class, one property, one business. I was at a tech, this is like 2.5 years ago, 3 years ago, during when, what was it called? It was the work one that it collapsed, right? Where they had all the stock in it. What's it called?
WeWork?
Yeah, WeWork. Yeah, WeWork, where a lot of people had a lot of their stock, and it went through the roof, and then it collapsed, right? And that's a classic example of, or even cryptocurrency, or even now being, you know, if all your money was in SVB Bank, you know, thinking you're safe, just sitting in something that was, you know, now we'll see if they bail out and how that all works and how long that takes, you know, to be determined. But the point is diversification. So I'm going to pause here and pass it to Jake Carpenter, the financial advisor. Jake, any thoughts on what I just said? You want to add to it? Comments? What are you thinking there, Jake?
Yeah, diversification has become a really popular word right now, especially with what's going on in our economy. When things are going really well and values are going up and unemployment rates are down and interest rates are down and deal flow is out there, nobody really thinks much about diversification. But then when interest rates increase and you're looking at jumping into a 1031 exchange, but there's no inventory and unemployment's up, interest rates are up, the economy is looking shaky. Right now, and this message is to everyone, there is an opportunity to basically preach the message of diversification to a lot of folks because they're over concentrated. Over the last 10 years, they've positioned well in real estate, and now they've got over concentrations in certain sectors of the country, in certain asset classes. And this is what I'm running into right now. I've got some folks that have a huge facility that's just gone through the roof in value, and it's just one building with, you know, the majority of their net worth. And so they're thinking now might be a good time to sell out and take that $120 million asset and move into maybe 4 or 5 different asset classes and geographical locations in the country to diversify a little bit and to create income streams, whether they want to be active or passive, in different ways, different locations, different asset classes. So if one of them suffers, they're not going to suffer across the board. So it's very, very important to talk to people about that. How do you feel about having, you know, an asset that's worth $20 million in one location in one asset class?
100%. And then you break that down even more. And by the way, I love the way you said that. Diversification it's not as, I guess, popular or as thought. People aren't thinking about it as much when the tide is in, right? When all the things are going great, when all the boats are rising with higher tide and things are just, you know, humming along like they have been for many years before really the past, you know, 7, 8 months, 9 months now. And now we're seeing this complete shift and change and challenges that are going on, which is not to be surprising, right? I mean, they pump so many trillions of dollars into the economy, printing money, right? Not to be surprised that this is happening, right? So, and now if you can take a single asset, let's say it has a single tenant, or let's even say, that's why part of why I like multifamily or like a mobile home parks, right? It has multiple tenants, but if it has a single tenant or the tenant wants to renegotiate with you now, or if it's a retail that's subject to like Amazon, you know, taking over certain things, like real estate. I love real estate when you can buy it right and you have good cash flow and it's producing. But number one, if that tenant goes out, or if you're in something like office or industrial, has been red hot, so those have been really solid. But even then, like still, even if you have a great property and a great location with a great tenant, now might be a great time to diversify, right? Who knows? Who knows what's going to happen, right? People have money in the bank and they're losing all of their money in the bank, right? Which is crazy to think about, right? Which I'm also curious, Jake, what you think about what's going on there with SVB as an update, right? So diversification times like this makes sense. Get multiple income streams and be able to really sleep well at night by knowing that you're not tied to just one asset class and one location. Jake, you want to pass it back to you?
Yeah. So I've been preaching the risk that people are taking with banks for a long time, because even if you stay below the $250,000 it's FDIC insured, FDIC is broke. They don't have enough on deposits to back up their promises. So then when you get into a situation where you got way more than $250,000 or way more than the FDIC limits, you're taking on more risk, but you're unable to get any kind of reward for that risk. Now, going back to diversification, which is what we first started with there, I just had a conversation with a guy last night who pulled me into his office. It was a project he's working on in the building that my office is located in. And he said, "Hey, I want you to take a look at this project." And he's got a lot of real estate in the area. He's a little bit afraid of over concentration in one area. And one of the biggest things to creating diversity is managing those two little words on Brett Swartz's chest right now, is managing the tax flow. And I told him, I says, look, if you can pretty much do probably anything you want to do, I call it the magic wand effect. If you could pull out your magic wand and decide what it is that you wanted to do, we could probably build a bridge from where you're at to where you want to go. But in order to do that, which is usually creating diversity, right, we've got to manage tax flow. And once you manage and do a good job at managing tax flow, then you're gonna create more cash flow, or the opportunity to have more cash flow. So anyway, hopefully that kind of added a little bit of value to what you were talking about.
It did, Jake. It's fantastic, and I think that's you said it very well. Managing your tax flow so that you can be in a position to be opportunistic for increased cash flow. I'm going to bring Jake Miller in. Jake Miller, welcome to the masterclass. Jake Miller is one of our top strategic alliances, financial advisor extraordinaire, CFP, out of the great state of Utah. But he's a man of many travels. Jake, you're looking good today. How are you at?
Doing well. I'm here in the country of Colombia, just with some of our clients' assets, making sure that things are running smoothly, and that when they arrive, everything's in good shape and good order.
Excellent. So the idea here, Jake, is tax flow and cash flow, right? But also more so the time to harvest, the time to diversify, the time to plant, time to water, right? I mean, it's the cycles of life itself, but also it's the cycle of how money is built and protected as well. So maybe touch on a little bit of SVB, which what you've seen. We kind of touched on what happened ish, right? Maybe like where are we today, right? And then say the value of diversification using the DST.
Yeah, well, I'll add a little piece here as well, because I just did a video on this the other day. The important things that investors need to know, whether you're experienced or new, is the reason behind or the objective you're investing. Are you investing for a car? Are you investing so that you can retire? If you are, or doing both, or just one or the other, your trajectory is very different. Essentially, people need to be very goal driven. A lot of what you're saying, Brett, right now, I think a lot of people got caught by surprise. They were not ready when crap hit the fan, so to speak. And a lot of their assets were not actually invested in such a way that it met with their objectives. And they got caught off guard. Simply put, if they had negative experiences, they were not investing in a way that met with their objectives, because their objectives should first align with what they hope to accomplish in the future. Second, measure and be adjusted by the appropriate risk. And then third, of course, have the right time to liquidate in mind. Now, a lot of people talk about time horizon, but they don't really know what that means. I've kind of rephrased this and say that it's really important to know when to liquidate. We don't need to be greedy. We don't need to try to time the market. We don't need to try to hit things when they're high. When it's the right time based on your goal and the risks associated with your goal and objective, that's the right time to liquidate.
I love how you put that. Align with your objectives, right? Like what are we investing in? Is it align with your objectives? Number two, how we're going to measure and measure the risk, right? To make sure it's aligned with your objectives. And number three, when to liquidate, right? Have the ability to get out, or that strike price, that exit price of real estate, of stocks, or whatever it is, crypto, right? I mean, that's a great example. A client, you're my client. It was $50 million of Bitcoin at 54,000 a coin. And it went up to about 69,000 a coin. And she exited 5 with us at 54,000 a coin. But, having like, okay, if I have, what's my number? Is it 5, 10, 15, 20 million? We had another client I was working with. He had NFTs, and then NFT at one point went to $300 million. And then it was down to 150, right? 150 million. And I'm like, man, why don't we just take some 50 million off the table right now? It's like, well, I think it's going to go to 300 to 500 million. It's like, yeah, but what would 50 million right now mean that you can completely make sure that we can just make conservative stuff? he didn't do it. And I'm hoping that it comes back at some point. Who knows? And he was great. We spent some time together in Las Vegas at a real estate conference, and it was really cool. But that being said, I want to go into a next part of our talk today, which has to do with some deal stories that blew up. Right? We talk about a lot of successful stories. Okay, I want to talk to some disasters, and these disasters are important because we can typically learn more from the losses than we can from the wins. And so we're going to start with one that Jake Miller and I were working on that, for all intents and purposes, looked to be literally perfect. Just first call, first base, then we got around second base and third base, and everything just going really smooth. I'm going to pass it over to Jake. Jake, what is your assessment of the deal, without giving specifics of what happened? And then let's talk about what we can learn from it.
We have to hit the DocuSign button. Essentially, we can't be so focused on the end goal that we forget about some of the steps in the middle, and we sign agreements, and then we get, trust created before the sell. You can't sell the shares of a business prior to forming the trust, signing the engagement agreement, which is conditional, meaning there's no obligations, there's no payment due or anything like that, until, of course, the trust is funded. And so in this scenario, it was just something that slipped through the cracks. Literally, there were plenty of reminders and different things like that, but not everybody is very email oriented these days. More Instagram oriented than email oriented these days. So we just need to make sure that we dot our I's, cross our T's, and that's why we're all here. We need to have great communication. We need to have all the expectations laid out there. We need to make sure we get all our questions answered and take the time to mitigate, what would otherwise be an additional $1 million in taxes.
Well, so Jake, and I'll also add to that too, we multiple calls, emails, and then clearly laying it out. It's almost like you can't over communicate. And that's part of why, and it's human nature to say, well, I don't want to sign something until I know I have a deal, right? But we try to reverse that and just say, you know what, sign it. It doesn't, if you don't have a deal, the deal doesn't work out, any reason, you don't have to use the trust, but it gets you in a position to actually be able to have this plane, take off, this deferred sales trust plane take off, but it doesn't have to take off. And you don't owe us any money for doing that. And so anyone who's listening to this, if you're considering using the deferred sales trust and you're working with our team, sign sooner or sign now rather than later, because later can literally cost you $1 million in the deal. So bringing a little more color to it, multiple calls. Hey, emails your way. You see the email? Yep. I was looking at it yesterday. Yep. Okay. So you got to sign the DocuSign. We can form it in just 24 hours. We can get everything going for you, get working for you. And didn't sign it. And then multiple reminders, nothing. And then it closed, and it was just like, oh my gosh. And he was all in. He wanted to do it. Had, no objections. In the beginning, he had some questions. We worked through that. So that's number one. Make sure if you're listening to this or considering the DST for yourself or for your client, just have them sign the agreement, get the trust in place. If you don't use it, you don't pay anything. Otherwise, it could cost. Jake Miller, want to add anything else to that?
Again, it's just, when this is the biggest transaction of your life so far, it's really important that we pay attention to some of the smaller, finer point details. And that's why we're here. We're a team to help and support and to guide. People don't have to be on their own. You don't have to do this yourselves. We're here to be the dream team, or essentially to be the heroes of the day when it comes to your tax flow. And so let us support you, let us help you, and bring us on. Make us all part of the team. I know that a lot of business owners specifically, their entire life, they've done it all themselves. But we're helping people take things to the next level. And sometimes to level up, you need a team to help you do that.
There it is. The people who got you there aren't necessarily the people to help you get to the next spot. And hire the who, don't be the how. This is what we're doing every single day with growing our businesses. And so we want to encourage you to do the same thing. And we can be the how for you for the tax flow and the cash flow and the wealth building. Okay, let's go to disaster number 2. Okay, disaster number 2. And it's still kind of playing out right now, by the way. We'll see what this is like the 11th, 12th hour, but it's not looking too good. Okay, so you've got two partners. They're selling a business, okay? And one partner's done, and they both did a lot of work, but they're both excited to sell. Okay, just put it that way. In the $4 to $5 million range. Okay, talking at least 30% in tax, and really want to go into real estate. Loving the deferred sales trust. They're under contract to sell the business. Things are kind of going along. Business is getting closer to closing. Then they're getting more serious about the deferred sales trust. And then, we start to dive into the actual deal. He signed the engagement agreement. We find out that it's an S Corp, right? And S Corp, if there's, depending on the way it's structured, typically means the partners must at least cooperate, right? Cooperate. Doesn't mean each partner has to use the DST, but they have to cooperate. So we have one partner, he wants to use the DST. He's 1,000% in. The other one does not, and is not really open to it. And that's okay. You can't blame him. It's kind of last minute for him. He hadn't really been researching it, and he's looking forward to closing. And, all of whatever reasons, doesn't really matter. But typically we've been able to always work out a situation where the partner at least cooperates, right? Like, you can still pay your tax. Nothing changes for you. You're out. However, you got to cooperate because it's an S Corp. You guys are both the owners of it, with the person who wants to do the deferred sales trust. Okay. So fast forward, we thought it was going to be okay. Or at least the partner was telling us, yeah, it should be okay. I'll talk to my partner. No big deal. Well, guess what? It was a huge deal. And the partner wanted nothing to cooperate with at all. Wouldn't get on a call. Wouldn't bring in a CPA, at least to talk with us. We sent him information. We encouraged him to get on calls. And the other partner all of a sudden is like, oh my gosh, I'm going to pay a substantial amount. I'm going to try to do the math here, of tax, about 33% of tax. And I asked him, how long would it take you to earn that if you were just working? He says like 3 or 4 or 5 years. It's like 5 years of work. And I'm like, well, tell me more about the partnership. He's like, he's just not comfortable with it. And I'm like, man, like, and it's like, and part of it's like, well, had we had more time, right? Had the partner known about it earlier, who knows all the things. But at the end of the day, he wasn't willing to cooperate. And so now it's going to cost the partner all of this tax. And so I think the moral of the story is, A, be early in the deferred sales trust. B, before you sign a contract, make sure you're talking with us so that we can give you the language to be able to negotiate. So if and when this comes up, you have the option to use it, right? Instead of going into a contract with your own partner, with a buyer, if you don't have the language of at least having the option to do some estate planning, do some tax planning, guess what? Perhaps they can just hold you to what's in the contract. And so be very careful to sign anything until you have your tax flow plan in place, your capital gains tax solution in place, because otherwise you can be in a spot where you're dependent upon a partner and an S Corp who will not cooperate. So Pierce, York, you want to add or any thoughts on that, what I just said?
Yeah. And I mean, like that can be a tough situation if, you and your partner have falling out or whatever, right? Like it can put you in a bad position. And I think not only does that mean that, it's wise to make sure that you're kind of set up for success in the beginning. It's just also, it goes back to just getting with us early. That really is what it is. Yeah. The sooner you can get in, the better.
Right. Jake Miller, adding to that?
A lot of it, again, comes back to what we referred to in the other case, communication, and not just communication, but like, let us be a team. Let us all work together. Rely on us. In some ways, a lot of people who've done this themselves all their life, now they have to know and understand how to work with a chief operations officer and a chief financial officer and the attorney, which is like chief legal counsel, and treat this a little bit more like the C-suite, because everybody's moving up. And if everybody's moving up, now we have to support each other even more. It's not just communication, but holding each other accountable. There's checks and balances. And that's how this team really works in a dynamic way.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, I guess the question to ask up front for even myself, Jake, Pierce, Jake, everyone else who's listening, is who else could stop this, right? Or in other words, who needs to say yes? And that could be someone else's CPA, it could be someone else's financial advisor, that could be someone else's, tax attorney, that could be someone else's partner, that could be the M&A advisor. I mean, it could be a number of things. It could be who could stop what you're trying to do, and instead of waiting to bring them in, right? And I think in this scenario, like, it all kind of happened last minute anyway. So I don't think it wasn't intentional, or it wasn't like, oh, I'm just going to wait. I think it was just, he was just in his business doing the thing. Right. And then oftentimes people find out, oh man, once they're under contract, oh yeah, I got a tax problem, or I really got to now seriously look at this planning on this, right? Where we try to say, plan your exit plan before you put the property on the market, or before you sign anything, ideally, so that we can avoid and set proper expectations for everyone going in. So who can stop what I'm trying to accomplish, and how do I bring them in early so that they're a part of the opportunity here, and rather than being a liability where they can just blow it all up. And so that's what's happening. It's unfortunate. I would say, honestly, I don't think this has ever happened on any of the deals I've done for many, many, many years. And I could think of. Now, we've had partners who didn't want to do the deferred sales trust. Like we did a $13 million deal in San Diego, and it was 4 partners, and one just wanted to pay his tax, and the other 3 did their own deferred sales trust. But they all cooperated. They're like, no problem. I mean, he's paid his tax, which was the interesting part. I think this partner thought for some reason, if he cooperated, like he was doing something that was not, he could get him in trouble. It's like, no, you're paying your tax, and there's nothing to be, concerned about there. But anyways, that's how he felt. And this is last minute, and it wasn't in the contract. So it's really unfortunate. But so that is number 2 failure story. Are we ready for number 3 failure story? Pierce, do you want to tee this one up? And then I'll try to talk about what
the
Pierce
lesson
and I had a
learned.
really interesting time. Go ahead, Pierce. You teed up.
Yeah. So I get a call from a friend of mine who says, "Hey, I have a friend who's selling a home that he's had for a while. He's going to have a really large tax. I told him about the DST, and he's really interested. So I ended up calling. They were about to close in like 3 days. I said, hey, here's what we're going to do. We're going to put the money into, you're going to do a 1031 exchange with Exchange Solutions, our preferred partner. And he said, okay. I set everything up. A few days later, I get an email from the exchange company saying, hey, the funds have been put in the exchange company. So we get Brett on the phone. Fast forward to yesterday, we get Brett on the phone, and we're like talking through the deal. Brett does an amazing job sharing all of the whys and the freedoms and the flywheel and everything that he's got going on over there from DLP Capital. Nice plug, by the way. I really like that. But come to find out that this gentleman had actually taken some of the funds at close of escrow instead of putting everything into the 1031 exchange. And so that just blew it up. And what really sucks is this guy has a huge mortgage over basis from consistent refis over the years, where not only does he have a huge capital gains tax, but he has a huge mortgage over basis, which is going to be taxed at ordinary income. And so now we're trying to work through, hey, is this even going, because the failed 1031 exchange could blow up the deferred sales trust, could blow up the Delaware statutory trust. So there's just a lot of moving parts there that are just totally
so let me summarize that, and then let me give you some action items. Okay. So this is also, again, like communication and pre-planning, right? And making sure that you're not getting in a position where you're doing 1031 exchanges or selling highly appreciated assets without a deferred sales trust team in place. So one of the concepts we practice here is not only having a tax flow and cash flow mindset, right? But the next thing is, the build aspect, which is building a team to help you execute on what you're trying to achieve, and then finding the strategy along with that to execute on that. And as a part of that, you want to have that team to go to, right? Because not every CPA knows about this. They might be able to file your tax returns, but they don't know. And what was interesting is we had the CPA actually on the call with us. And as we're going through these challenges, it's like he knew some, but he didn't really know a lot. And that's the scary part, right? Where you're like, oh no, like, so as we unraveled this, so the gentleman sold an asset. He'd done a cash out refi a couple of years back. He's owned it for 20 years. And essentially his basis was about $770,000. His debt was at $770,000 above his adjusted basis, which in California, I think in really any state, is known as ordinary income tax if you sell and don't replace your debt. Okay. So what happened was at the close of escrow, instead of sending all 100% of the funds to a 1031 exchange accommodator, he decided to take $250,000 at the close and send the rest, which there's basically a situation where if you take even a dollar, that the Franchise Tax Board and in the U.S. government, IRS, could say, you even took a dollar, the whole exchange fails, right? So you to make it super clean and can make it consistent, you got to send all of the funds all to the qualified intermediary, and then you have to wait for a couple windows, okay? And with the deferred sales trust, by the way, we have basically 3 windows you can close. At the close of escrow, if we have set it up prior to the buyer moving contingencies, the trust, and that's for all asset types, we can do that. Now, the only other, I guess, second chance you have is if you are selling an investment real estate property, then like what Pierce did, which was really good, he had the funds go to a qualified intermediary, which we work with, and have the deferred sales trust as an option, which on day 46, if you do not identify, you can basically, the exchange fails technically at that point, and you can defease into a deferred sales trust. It's a backup plan, okay? Now, there's also another place that the exchange fails on day 181. However, it depends on if something's been identified or not. So this is really important to understand. So let me read you a little bit of information here. So if you ID a property, so let's imagine you sold a $3 million property, and you're gonna want to buy something else, right? And you have no basis, so you all $3 million goes into the 1031 exchange accommodator. If you ID a property and it's past the 45 days, and you close on that property, let's say that was $1 million deal, and that's the only property you identified, guess what? Your exchange is officially over, and the rest of the $2 million can go in, even though it's past that 45 day and it's before that 180. However, if you've identified that property, you did not close on that property, guess what? Your exchange has not failed until day 181. Brett, even if someone else bought the property, even if I don't want to buy it anymore, yeah, if you've identified it and it's past your 45th day and you didn't close on it, your exchange is still live. The accommodator will hold the money until day 180, 181, and then you're going to get paid back your money, or it can go into the deferred sales trust. So that's the second window. If you can get even $1 out early, or you take $1 out early, guess what? They can fail the whole exchange. So it's super, super strict on making sure that you're working with a team that understands these nuances. That involves a qualified intermediary. And then if you want the deferred sales trust, it involves our team to make sure you're working hand in hand with them to make sure that it's sort of like Jake Miller. Maybe you're a surgeon and you have an anesthesiologist, right? And you want to make sure they're communicating. Anything you want to add to this?
No, absolutely. Just like the anesthesiologist has to do their part for the surgeon to not be impeded and have greater likelihood of success, our team, we all have distinct roles. And yes, we might be a little bit of a backup for each other, checks and balances, everything else. But literally, it's like the old Stockton and Malone, right? You got to have one to have a perfect play with the other, and we all have to do our job correctly.
Yeah, you nailed it. And so that's really important. We call this a 1031 rescue plan. If you want to learn more about this, go to capitalgainstaxsolutions.com and you can connect with us. We encourage you to never do a 1031 exchange without talking to us and working with our strategic alliance and having this plan in place. Like, why would you? Why would you go and not have it in place? And so we want to encourage you to go connect with us. And if you're a business professional, I'm a real estate professional. I'm a broker, and I've done lots of 1031 exchanges. I think it's fine. I think it's real estate broker malpractice to work with a qualified intermediary that will not give an option or even know how to do an option. It's like going into surgery without an anesthesiologist, right? It's like yeah, we don't use the anesthesia anymore. Like we just kind of just go for the surgery and just go for it. Like, wait, you don't use anesthesia like these other people? No, we just go for it. Well, guess what? That's what you're doing when you're working with a qualified intermediary or a broker who doesn't give you an option for the deferred sales trust. So I implore you, encourage you, please, please, please don't skate on thin ice, because this is what can happen to you. As well, make sure that you send all the funds at closing to the qualified intermediary, right? That is ABC of exchanging and deferring tax. And otherwise the whole thing can just completely fail, let alone the hardest part was he has ordinary income tax. So think about that. Like you have debt over basis of $770,000 and you don't have the money because it was just in debt, but you still owe the tax, right? It puts you to the highest tax bracket, for 20 years of having this property and this wealth. So what is the solution? Pierce, let's see if you know what the solution is. What would have been the solution? Let's imagine he had sent all the funds to the qualified intermediary. Okay. What would have been our solution for him?
The solution would have been to put a good portion of the funds into the Delaware to cover the mortgage over basis. And then from the Delaware, we'd put the rest on a zero coupon deal. And then from there, we would put the rest of the funds into the deferred sales trust.
Pretty good. Jake Miller, would you make that a little more precise for us, a little more detailed, but good overview, Pierce? When he says Delaware, what does he mean by that, Jake? And how is that different from the deferred sales trust? And walk us through how to solve mortgage over basis using two DSTs.
Absolutely. Yes. So one DST being the deferred sales trust, one DST being the Delaware Statutory Trust Fund, which is a financial product, not a legal entity like the deferred sales trust. Okay. We use the deferred sales trust to defer the recognition of the transaction forward so that we don't have to pay taxes today. The Delaware Statutory Trust Fund is this piece that we do have to roll over and recognize this transaction, but it's an eligible transaction for a 10. And we do that to get rid of this economic benefit. What economic benefit, you might ask? The mortgage over basis or debt over basis. If you have a property and you originally put in $200,000 and now you're selling it for $1 million, but in the time in between, you took out additional mortgages, which many real estate professionals do. You leverage one property to buy the next property, right? Well, in a way, that was money from a loan that you received that you never pay taxes on because it's a loan. But it changes characterization. Once you pay off that loan over basis, so let's pretend that your basis is still 200,000, but you have 500,000 in debt. You have 300,000 of debt over basis or mortgage over basis. If that gets paid off and wiped away, that was money you received once as a loan that gets recharacterized as income when it gets paid off, because that is an economic benefit to you. And if you don't roll that over into a Delaware Statutory Trust Fund with a little bit of equity, then you have to pay ordinary income taxes in addition to the capital gains taxes, in addition to all these other things, which is why we use a 1-2 combo with the deferred sales trust and the Delaware Statutory Trust Fund.
Everyone give Jake a round of applause right there. That was masterful and it was so well said. And so, yes, so that is step one. You send the funds to the qualified intermediary. Step two, you might ask, well, can I use a regular 1031? Yeah. To replace your debt over basis? Yes. So why were we using this Delaware 1031? Well, because the last piece that Jake just said is they have really high loan to value ratios, And you can go to my YouTube channel and watch the Ron Anderson case. In fact, Jake Carper and I also did another case too with his client, our client now, on the mobile home parks, which is an amazing deal as well. But the part was, do you want to be taking debt on your own? No. Do I want to maximize the ability to put more equity in the deferred sales trust? Yes. This is the Ron Anderson case, by the way. He sold in Denver a multifamily property with his wife, Airbnb, and he used a partial Delaware statutory trust to replace about $1 million of debt over basis, and the rest of it went to the deferred sales trust. And so for Ron, his primary thing was, I want to be out of debt. I do not want to 1031 to another property. I think the values are very high. We closed this property about 7 months ago. He probably did it at perfect timing. And then also, I don't want to pay this debt over basis because that's going to be ordinary income tax. So are we saying that you can't defer capital gains tax using a deferred sales trust for debt over basis? The answer is yes. You cannot do that. You have to use a Delaware, which replaces that debt over basis. And because it's really ordinary income tax is what it is. Like Jake said, it's recharacterized, right? So by replacing that debt via a 1031 exchange or a Delaware 1031, you now have kind of kicked the can again. And these deals are zero coupon deals, which means the cash flow is all going towards paying off debt. It's kind of like the Dave Ramsey plan. Just they're going to debt snowball that cash flow to pay off the debt, but they're really high LTVs, like 80% LTVs, which means a small equity piece. But Jake Carpenter, what's cool about the debt? Is the debt in your name or is it in the Delaware statutory trust name, Jake Carpenter?
Yeah, so the main problem is we're trying to replace a lot of debt without sinking all the equity dollar for dollar into replacing the debt. So that's where, Jake Miller and I work together a lot. And in that particular case, Jake worked with me to find a highly leveraged Delaware to basically soak up for every dollar that the investor invested, he was replacing $3 of debt. So that's a really highly efficient way to get debt off the table by utilizing the minimal amount of equity possible.
And is it non-recourse debt to the note holder?
Non-recourse, yes.
Right. By the way, here's the deal right here. This is Gary Lester. In fact, Jake Carpenter and I had the pleasure of interviewing Gary and Jake Carpenter. And it's a $10 million 5 mobile home park sale. Yeah, and then Jake Miller came in at the last minute to help save the day with a Delaware to make it all smooth. So we all work together on this. If you want to learn more about all of this, go to the YouTube channel and or go to strategictaxsolutions.com, or even Jake Carpenter. Where can they find you?
It's going to be 509-460-8700. And I'm with Carpenter Capital.
Perfect. We're going to open up for questions now. Probably felt like a fire hose. It was a lot today, a lot of content, but I want to encourage Amy, Camelia, Dale, Danny, Frank, Jessica, Maria, even Micah. I'd love to see, Micah, what you're thinking, how we're doing here today. Just everyone unmute yourself if you can. Say hi, ask a question, have a comment, throw a thumbs up, put something in the chat. Micah, how we do today so far?
Hey, no, it's a beautiful day. I haven't even been pinched yet.
And Michael, what stuck out for you? Anything like you're like, oh wow, that's new or different, or like just a good encouragement to understand? What anything stuck out for you?
I really just like the overview of like the deferred sales trust with the Delaware statutory trust, and just understanding when you have that debt over basis. So that really was a good explanation, and kind of walking us through when that needs to be used. So
yeah, because it's like Jake Miller. It's like a Swiss Army knife, right? You can't always just use the knife or the screw. You got to maybe pop the little scissor guy. You know what I mean? Like the red ones. You guys have that growing up?
No comment.
I was the only one who had the red one, right? That had like 20 different things. The point is, you got to make sure you have the right tool to solve the right challenge.
That's true.
So
absolutely correct. In fact, I found a really funny Facebook post that had like literally somebody trying to take a wrench to undo a screw, and it was literally impossible. And that was just illustrating the fact that you need the right tool for the right job.
There it is. So what do we got? Micah, good comments, good thoughts. You can have more. We're welcome to. But Annie, Camelia, Dale, Danny, Frank, Jessica, Maria.
Hey, Brett, I gotta jump, but thanks for the talk today, guys, and catch you guys on the next one.
Pierce, good job. Bye.
I'll jump in here really quick and just say how amazing it is for literally everyone or most people on this call right now can really jump in and work together to get things done if needed to. And there's no competition here. We're all working together to serve the client. And it's really amazing deal that is a testimony of the fact of the quality of the people that you can work with when you're using a strategy like the deferred sales trust that may not be the be all end all, but it could be a foundational piece to your estate planning, retirement planning, tax planning, cash flow, tax flow strategies. So really great quality people.
Appreciate it, Jake. Appreciate it. So cool. Well, with that, I think we can end it early. I got 12 minutes here. This is good, people. It's been a good Friday. It's probably a lot of good content there. So Jake Miller, if want to get with you and Micah to connect, what is the best place for them to find you?
Absolutely. strategictaxsolutions.com, where we have a list and array of various tax strategies, including the deferred sales trust. You can book an appointment there on our website or give us a call at 1-800-773-1848.
Amazing. Jake Carpenter, one last time, where can they find you if they want to people want to get in touch with you?
You can call me at 509-460-8700. We're in transition right now, so we'll have our website up soon, but it's Carpenter Capital and 509-460-8700.
Amazing. Thank you, Jake Carpenter. If people want to get in touch with me, you can go to capitalgainstaxsolutions.com. You can also search that on YouTube, on iTunes, on all the major LinkedIn's, Facebook, Instagram, as well. Check out the new book that's coming out. No, it does not have this, this Batman mask, right? Although might be cool for the next one, but it'll be just my full photo. But we have the Jake Miller in the book. We have the Kevin Harrington from Shark Tank in the book, which is pretty cool. And we're just talking about building a capital gains tax exit plan. It's the proven playbook to unlocking your ideal wealth plan for yourself or for your clients. I'm going to encourage you to pick it up on Amazon, to share it with somebody, to read it. It's going to be inspirational. It's going to give you some tactical DST insider like knowledge and wisdom, and then some actual deal stories and so much more. So check out that book on Amazon. And if we can help you, if you have a live deal, 1 million net proceeds, $1 million gain. It works for S Corp, C Corps, LLCs, primary homes, businesses, cryptocurrency, stock, private or public. You can save a failing 1031 exchange. Please go to capitalgainstaxsolutions.com. Mention you saw us here on the masterclass, and we'll see you hopefully next week. If you want to join us on the masterclass, go to capitalgainstaxsolutions.com as well. Give you a chance to register there. And I appreciate everyone out there. Thank you to the Jakes. Thank you, Pierce. Thank you, Micah, for your participation. Appreciate everybody. Talk to you soon, okay?